Hello everyone and welcome back to Obas Training Gist. Today, we are diving deep into a legal and political seismic event that has gripped Nigeria, the life imprisonment sentence handed down to Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. The conviction on terrorism charges by an Abuja Federal High Court on Thursday has immediately ignited a fiery national debate on justice, regional bias, and government's handling of separatists and the militant groups. The court handed Kanu multiple life sentences and concurrent sentences describing him as an international terrorist who pursued his agitation through brutal force and terrorism. But here's the crucial point. The lead prosecutor for the federal government insisted on death penalty, yet the judge opted for life imprisonment to show mercy. This decision, coupled with the conviction of an ISWAP leader who received 20 years, has fueled the argument of selective justice, raising a vital question: is justice truly blind in Nigeria, or is it swayed by the region and identity of the accused? We have to examine this carefully, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. So sit back and take a watch.
Good morning to you viewers. Let's begin what's trending by focusing on reactions trailing the life imprisonment sentence handed to the leader of the indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, after he was convicted of terrorism by a federal high court in Abuja on Thursday. During the sentencing, Justice James Omotosho held that the prosecution successfully established every allegation brought forward, noting that Kanu offered no credible defense and deliberately refused to challenge the evidence presented. He described the IPOB leader as an international terrorist who pursued his agitation through brutal force and terrorism, causing the bloodshed of innocent citizens. The federal government's prosecutor had requested the death penalty, but the judge stated that he opted for life imprisonment to show mercy. The judge ordered that Kanu be placed in protective custody away from Kuje prison due to his unruly behavior during trial, and banned him from using any electronic devices without supervision from the Office of the National Security Advisor.
Is that why you brought the cameras? Is that why you brought them today? Please. You didn't bring it before, you brought it today? Please. Show me where it says you can try me on a repeat law. Show me. Please. Show me where it says you can try me on a repeat law. I said, show me. Show me. Excuse, show me. Get the microphone from him. No, leave it, leave it. Leave it. I said leave it. It's a court of law. I'm under trial. I'm under trial. I have to speak. What is happening? What are you doing? Don't push me. I'm going, don't touch me. I'm warning you, don't touch me. I'm warning you, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I said don't touch me. Smart people. You don't know law. Show me the law. Show me the law. Show me the law. You don't know law. They are promoting you. You're acting rubbish. God will punish you. Now and forever. Let it be on record. Any judgment given in this court is rubbish. Ask him where is the law. Ask Omotosho, where is the law? Where is the law?
Well, Nnamdi Kanu was given a 7-count terrorism charge and sentenced to life imprisonment for counts 1, 4, 5, and 6 of the 7-count charge, while he received 20 years and 5 years on counts 3 and 7, respectively, all to run concurrently. The court described Kanu as unsuitable to remain in the company of sane minds. Meanwhile, outside the court, the lead prosecutor, Awomolo, delivered remarks after Kanu's sentencing, lauding the judge's decision. Speaking to the media, the prosecutor stated that this single decision has brought an end to injustice and oppression faced by people in the eastern states of Nigeria, adding that only now will they be able to sleep with their 2 eyes closed. Let's take a look.
The judiciary has salvaged Nigeria from the claws, from the oppression of the proscribed IPOB. The court has also pronounced death sentence on Eastern Security Network, which was the military wing of IPOB. Today, God has brought an end to injustice, oppression, suffered by our brothers and sisters of the eastern states of Nigeria. they will not be able to sleep with their two eyes closed.
Well, Aloy Ejimako, the legal counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, has vowed to challenge the life sentence handed down to Kanu. The lawyer, in a strongly worded statement outside the court, declared that the verdict and sentence will not stand, insisting that Nnamdi Kanu is not a terrorist.
It will not stand. Nobody is going to trample on me. Nobody is going to trample on Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is not a terrorist. He's a man that was pursuing change. To pursue a separate nation of yours is not a crime. So in Nigeria today, if somebody says, don't be silly, you get convicted. Nnamdi Kanu may broadcast, and so what? And you convict him for terrorism for mere words in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What kind of precedent is being laid? So from here, we are heading to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal is the only court in this country, or the next court in this country, that sits as a...
All right, Dr. Abati, reactions have trailed this ruling. I'd love your thoughts before I take the reactions.
Okay, we started with this subject this morning. We also had a session with Maxwell Okpe, one of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers. The first thing is one, there's a lot of emotions involved in this. All kinds of street commentators, getting very emotional. There's a lot of melodrama involved in the matter. But the reality is what the court has done.
Yeah.
The judgment is about 144 pages. Whoever is contesting that, the place to go is the Court of Appeal. The matter is not yet over.
Okay.
So Nnamdi Kanu, no matter what has happened so far, can go to court of Appeal. And when it gets to the Court of Appeal, my only fear is that the prosecutor may also cross appeal. Because even with the judgment given by Justice James Omotosho, Chief Awomolo SCA was still insisting that the punishment for death penalty, for the punishment for terrorism, treason, and all of that, within the purview of the terrorism law of 2013, as amended, is death sentence. So, so the drama has just begun. But I like the point that Maxwell Okpe made, that, look, people should just give peace a chance. Let the process in the court be exhausted. But as I've seen, so many people have suddenly become legal experts, commenting what they don't know about. However, when the matter goes all the way to the Supreme Court, whatever happens, there's still a window. And that window is for the president. President Tinubu recently granted pardon, granted clemency, and all of that. I think whatever happens at the end of the day, that window is still open to the president of Nigeria in the national interest. For peace, to then say, okay, this is the outcome, but the Nigerian government would grant this pardon. The pardon can now be commutal of sentence, it can be whatever, as the Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy would decide. Right. So that's what I would recommend. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but let us just allow the process to play out.
I've also had
and people should not inflame passions.
This is it.
A lot of people say, it will not stand. Yeah. We will fight. Yeah. We will. No, Maxwell Okpe made the point that, look, whether you are from the east or from wherever, just allow peace to reign.
This is the main point. And your point about, probably the president might find a way to, maybe commute his sentence. You're not the only one that has held this view. I have, heard a bunch of legal experts that have, also expressed that view. I'll take some reactions, Ayo, before I come to you. This person wrote on X characteristics. The recent judgment against Nnamdi Kanu has once again reopened a long-standing debate in Nigeria. Why does the Nigerian state seem to treat terrorism, armed agitation, and violent extremism differently, depending on the region from which they emerge? Terrorism should never be celebrated or defended in any form, and anyone who has participated in violent acts against the Nigerian state or its citizens must face the law. However, The unevenness in the application of justice is becoming too glaring to ignore. Over the years, Nigeria has witnessed situations where the government, according to numerous public reports, entered negotiations with armed groups and even reintegrated some individuals back into society, particularly in the northern region. It is disheartening to observe what appears to many Nigerians as sectional approaches to justice. The common saying, what is good for the goose is good for the gander, does not always seem to play out evenly. We may now be witnessing what can be best described as regional and sectarian justice and injustice. Meanwhile, one of the leaders of the Islamic State West Africa province, Husani Ismaila, has been convicted of terrorism offenses and sentenced to 20 years imprisonment by a federal high court in Abuja. Justice Emeka Nwite pronounced the sentence on Tuesday after Ismaila, also known as Mai Tangaran, pleaded guilty to a 4-count terrorism charge brought by the Department of State Services. The prosecution said Ismaila coordinated the 2012 attacks on multiple police facilities in Kanu State, in which many were injured following his arrest. In August 2017, the trial suffered delays before the DSS called 5 witnesses. Ismaila changed his plea to guilty after the 5th witness testified. Well, you see this? His 20-year sentence will run concurrently from his 2017 arrest date. The judge also ordered Ismaila must undergo rehabilitation and de-radicalization before being reintegrated into the society. And you see why I was able to juxtapose that tweet with this actual story, because this is the agitation from a lot of people, especially also in the Southeast. And, many people who, rightly feel like this was injustice meted on Nnamdi Kanu.
Absolutely. And all Nigerians, despite irrespective of region, have to have a voice. And all voices must be listened to, must be heard. I say this because earlier on I'd said that, that what a number of people have said in some quarters, including the former minority leader of the Senate, Senator Einaya Abaribe, is that it seems as if it was like predetermined, it was an action against the region of the Southeast, that it was selective justice in some quarters. And when you hear cases like this terrorist who was convicted, masterminding acts of terrorism, who was given 20 years, you can then understand why people are saying that. I had to call Mr. Okpe to order earlier on during the interview, because I also don't feel that the ethnic narrative is good for national unity and to not further incite violence or aggression in certain parts. What we're trying to push is the spirit of national unity. But in doing so, part of that is to ensure that there's fairness and justice indeed across all levels, across boards, and there mustn't be a perception that people are treated differently based on which region they belong to. Now, names like the situation that happened with Sunday Igboho is coming up again. People are talking about terrorists from the north who are given 5-year sentences, and people who actually perpetrated large-scale acts of terrorism, giving kids gloves. In some parts, we even saw them being, given amnesty. We talk about rehabilitation, de-radicalization, and you ask, why is the same treatment or suggestion or solution not given to what is happening to Nnamdi Kanu and the Southeast? And so these are the questions. I don't agree with giving amnesty and, asking terrorists. I believe that terrorists should face the full wrath of the law across board. That's what I believe, and a number of people have called for that. You don't, and we've seen that it doesn't work in the Northeast. And so I believe that this is a very delicate matter. It has a political slant to it. It is very sensitive, and that's why even when we speak on this table, we're careful, because we have to ensure that above all the, yes, there's the legal perspective, there's the political and personal perspective, but there's also the spirit of peace and unity in Nigeria, so that we don't further divide along ethnic lines based on what is seen as selective justice. Absolutely.
I mean, I agree with you 100%. This idea of de-radicalization and reintegration of these terrorists, I believe it should be scrapped. You were going to say...
right, for you to take two different cases without really knowing the facts of the case and say, oh, this one, the judgment is too harsh. This one, the judgment is too soft.
Right.
No, that's not how
Whatever
you analyze
circumstances
legal
they are.
matters.
Yeah, whatever circumstances they are.
Every case
now,
is determined on the basis of his own facts and evidence.
Correct. Whatever circumstances they are, this is what is brought out to the public. This is the perception that is brought to the public.
But I think also it's important to remember, I know you want to speak, but let's also remember that one of the major things that played a part here was that the judge felt that there was no sign of remorse.
Well, also he didn't present a defense because he chose not to present a defense. So he didn't really have a he didn't have a proper trial.
All the terrorists convicted in the North Show, was there a sign of remorse from them?
Well, we don't know. It was not time.
Which is why we advocate for the transparency. In terms of perception,
I think the idea of the remorse doesn't really even affect here, because the reason why he decided to show mercy is because of the global perception of what the death penalty, seems in Nigeria especially. And I'd like to bring up also the topic of, Bishop Ona, who we discussed last week, where he talked about the fact that, terrorism, there is a death sentence for it. How many people have we seen convicted, have we seen given the death penalty for these such heinous crimes that have been plaguing our nation for decades? But like you said,
one of the counts is treason.
Yes, right.
So that's why you have to look at the facts of
I'm talking about terrorism
instead of just general comment.
No, I'm talking about terrorism.
Individual cases.
Terrorism. One of the.
He was found guilty on terrorism.
Yes. So that's the point I'm making. Actually, terrorism. But anyways, in terms of terrorism, we're going to discuss the matter in detail.
Terrorism was 20 years.
Yeah. In details.
There's
life imprisonment
one of the
20
counts.
years and there was 5 years as well.
In any case, we will, like you said, the matter will go on appeal, correct? Yeah. And this is not the end of the case. So we will follow up as always. Let's now take our story from Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Africa Subcommittee on Thursday opened their public hearing into the review of President Donald Trump's redesignation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. In an emotional moment, Congressman Bill Huizenga, who sits on the Africa Subcommittee, fights back tears over the killings of Christians in Nigeria while referencing his recent exclusive interview on Arise News. He condemned the Tinubu administration, saying they are sitting back and not doing enough. Let's take a look.
School with kids from Nigeria. I've got neighbors who've been missionaries there, who have family there, who have friends there, who know this is going on. Yet we've got not just the mass media, we got people within Congress denying that this is happening, or certainly de-emphasizing it. It ought to be outrageous that it is Christians, moderate Muslims, anyone being terrorized by these radicalized Islamists in Nigeria, and we've got the Tinubu government sitting back and not doing enough. And I recently just was interviewed by Nigerian television, Arise TV, and that was really their question: is the Tinubu government doing enough? And I had to answer, no, they are not. And I do not understand how a delegation can come here to the United States and downplay and come up with all of these other excuses as to why this is allowed to happen. It should be rejected and should be called out for what it is.
Welcome back. That clip from Arise News set the scene perfectly, and you can already feel the tension and the deeply divided opinions surrounding this case. This judgment is far more than just a legal verdict. It is a profound political statement with immense national implications. The immediate and most glaring issue, as highlighted by one of the social media commentators and the Arise News host, is a startling disparity in sentencing Nnamdi Kanu and an individual seeking a separatist nation, albeit with use of violent methods, received multiple life sentences. Simultaneously, we learned about the DSS prosecuted ISWAP leader, Hussaini Ismaila, convicted for coordinating deadly terrorist attacks in Kanu, who was handed a 20-year concurrent sentence and even offered de-radicalization. This comparison is a disaster for the image of Nigeria's judicial system. Terrorism, armed agitation, and violent extremism must be condemned unequivocally, but when a separatist leader faces a more severe sentence than a hardened Islamist terrorist who coordinated attacks that resulted in numerous deaths. That perception of selective justice becomes too glaring to ignore. This fuels ethnic distrust and validates the narrative of victimization in the Southeast, which is precisely what the nation needs to avoid right now. The judge, Justice Omotosho, stated he showed mercy by opting for life imprisonment over the death penalty. While any avoidance of death sentence is a positive in human rights terms, this mercy is immediately overshadowed by two facts. First, the aforementioned disparity, and second, Kanu's deliberate refusal to offer a defense or challenge the evidence. This refusal, cited by the judge, made the prosecution's job more easier. Kanu and his lawyer strategy has consistently been to discredit the court and the legal processes, leading to a largely unchallenged conviction on the facts presented. This refusal to engage, however principled, played directly into the hands of the state and resulted in the maximum possible sentence apart from death. Dr. Abati rightly pointed out that the matter is not yet over, with the avenue of appeal open to the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. However, he also introduced a crucial political dimension, the window of clemency or pardon from the president, given the sensitive nature of the Southeast region, the ongoing sit-at-home orders, and the overall climate of insecurity tied to the IPOB issue. President Tinubu now holds a powerful political key. A presidential pardon or a committal of the sentence, perhaps, to a fixed term that recognizes time served, could be a significant peace-building gesture. The legal process must be exhausted, but beyond the law, there is statesmanship. A presidential intervention, when timed right, could de-escalate tension, open avenues for political dialogue, and remove the perception of Kanu as a political prisoner or martyr. The newsreel also highlighted the U.S. House Subcommittee on Africa hearing, where Congressman Bill Huizenga broke down in tears over killings of Christians in Nigeria, directly questioning the Tinubu's administration's effort against genocide. The international community, particularly the U.S., views the terrorism landscape in Nigeria through a lens that often sees radical extremists as a primary threat, sometimes treating the separatists as secondary. The conviction of Nnamdi Kanu and the ISWAP leader give the Nigerian government talking point about addressing all forms of violent extremism. However, the international community's focus on ISWAP, Boko Haram, and the Fulani herdsmen conflict in the north means that Kanu's sentence will be scrutinized for proportionality and political motivation. The failure to redesignate Nigeria as a country of particular concern under the Trump administration review does not absolve the government of its duty to be seen to be addressing all threats equally and fairly. Ultimately, this case is a litmus test to Nigerian commitment to equal justice and national unity. The legal battles ahead are predictable, but the political opportunity is urgent. The country needs reconciliation, not further division. The message cannot be that terrorists in one region are rehabilitated while separatists in another are imprisoned for life. The presidency has a constitutional power and a moral imperative to step in and use the power of clemency to heal wounds rather than deepen them. In conclusion, this is a complex narrative and one that requires both judicial rigor and political wisdom. The ball is now in the court of Nigeria's judiciary for the appeal process and ultimately the president to decide whether this case will define the moment of sectional division or one of national healing. What are your thoughts? Do you agree that the president should grant clemency? Is this a case of selective judgment? Let me know in the comments below. So, thank you so much for watching Oba's Trending Gist. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Until then, stay safe and thank you critically.